Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother and sister, welcome back to Islamic Notes channel. My journey to Islam. I finally found the answer. Yusuf Chambers is a Muslim convert from Britain. He was a Catholic. Yousef have been a Muslim for more than 27 years now. He never thought of being Muslim. He thought Islam was a religion for brown people and ethnics. He spent years searching for the purpose of life, for a direction. It was plaguing him every day. He was disappointed. Then he came across the book that answers all of the questions. How did he find Islam? What did push him forward in your conversion to Islam? What did he learn about the religion? What have Islam given him? Inner distress questions lead. Yusuf Chambers to Islam. Yusuf Chambers, or Tim Chambers, is a man born in Woking, Surrey, England. As a young man, he was always anxious, and his heart always asked, why is he in this world? What is he in this world for? Because there were no answers to these questions, and his heart was increasingly anxious, Tim, who was originally a Christian, finally went on a spiritual search to find answers. Tim finally learned about Buddhism, Hinduism, socialism, and Christianity, even embracing these beliefs. According to Tim, as quoted on the onislam.net page, he failed to find God from the several religions he had embraced. Finally, Tim studied Tai Chi and various martial arts, meditation, and became a vegetarian. He hoped that he could find answers to the spiritual questions that were entrenched in his heart. But none of them were able to give me answers, said Tim, until one day he became acquainted with Islam. And in Islam, Tim managed to find answers to his questions. Since then, he has become a Muslim. Even now, he is a da'i. His name has also changed to Yusuf Chambers. He always appears in various international Muslim events and regularly fills programs in several Islamic media, such as Peace TV and Islam Channel. His preaching also reaches Mexico, India, and Kuwait. How did Yusuf find Islam? Before he became famous as a da'i, not many people knew about his life. He admitted that he came from a dark past. Yusuf did not forget his days before he converted to Islam around 15 years ago. It was scary, he said, when he remembered his life in the past, which was spent with his friends getting drunk and doing other negative things. I don't need to explain what we almost always did at that time, said Yusuf. When he turned 20, his life began to change. He began to pursue something spiritual. At that time, Tim began to question many things in this life, including the existence of God. Not infrequently, he spent his time without talking to anyone, paying attention to his surroundings. He then concluded that everything was not important. Tim also often looked out the window for a long time and tried to find the truth from the sky. At one point, I was amazed by everything I saw from the window, he said. The beauty of the moon and stars has amazed him. How great the universe is side by side with the nearest star 4 light years away. I was so scared because I never knew why all these amazing things were around me, he said. The team then tried to find it through science and studied astronomy. All of that did not answer his questions and instead led him to confusion. His search actually concluded that science only attached labels to everything that seemed real and did not provide any explanation behind it. According to him, science is unable to answer basic questions. Why are we in this world? Where will we go after we die? Those are the basic questions that we must ask ourselves and others around us, he said. One time he went to church and asked the pastor, who at that time he considered a human being sent by God. Who really is God and why was I in the world at that time? He asked the pastor. The pastor asked back, have you ever studied Christian religious theology? Yes, Christian theology only contains dogmatic things that don't make sense, Tim replied. Then I don't know how to explain anything. I can't help you, said the pastor. You see the church across there? I am the one who opens and closes it, watches over people as they come and go from the church. That's my job, the pastor explained. Tim realized that no matter who and where someone is, including in the church, no one will be able to change them if God does not give guidance. Even so, he did not give up. Tim continued to search. Until one time, he admired a Muslim girl from Malaysia. Tim tried to approach her because he thought the girl would help him spiritually and emotionally. At that time, I was not focused on things about Muslims because I thought it was not important. I just approached her while she tried to stay away from me, he recalled. One day during the month of Ramadan, the girl was angry because Tim's words were considered insulting to her religion. I only responded to her words that forbade me from coming to see her throughout the month of Ramadan. Tim then went to the Islamic community on his campus and asked them to help him learn about Islam and approach the Malaysian girl he liked. Tim was instead advised not to try to date the girl. I thought the advice was unfair because I loved her, but then they explained to me that Muslim girls don't date, and that's the way it should be, Yousef said. Tim's friends from the Islamic community then gave him several books about Islam to study. He then spent a lot of time reading many Islamic books and began to understand why the girl avoided him. Until one day, the team came back to her and offered to marry her. I thought that would solve our differences, but I was turned down, he recalled. Tim continued reading many Islamic books until he finally decided to fast during Ramadan. Occasionally, he would join Muslims at the mosque and join in congregational prayers. I had no idea what they were saying and just tried to follow their movements, he said. Yousef remembers well that he was in London at the time and still in the same circle with his old friends. When they went out to party and such, Tim would stay home, devour Islamic books, and occasionally go to the bathroom to perform ablution and ghusl, bathing or cleaning oneself from dirt. Although I didn't really understand what ghusl was, he said. From all that he read, Tim was so focused on the fact that Islam had to be his way of life that the next morning, still in the month of Ramadan, he went to a mosque to declare his Islam. After reciting the Shahada, around 300 to 400 male worshippers hugged me in turn, greeting me and congratulating me, said Yousef, who is also one of the founders of the Islamic Education and Research Academy, IERA. Tim Chambers then changed his name to Yusuf Chambers, finding a new life since then. He admitted that the depression he had felt for a long time disappeared, as did his dependence on alcohol. Yousef said that he had found the final truth that he had long been looking for after making Islam his faith. I changed from not understanding anything to someone with high confidence about the reason for his existence in the world in just 2 weeks. That is because of Allah's guidance, he said. Yousef was sure that no one could help him get out of that confusing situation except Allah's guidance. And I am very grateful for his guidance, recalled Yousef. Yusuf Chambers. Becoming a Muslim, I discovered my natural humanity. Why bother living in the world if humans are sure to go to heaven? That critical thinking began Yusuf Chambers' efforts to explore the nature of life. It was this thought that led him to spend a whole day without talking to anyone and to look up at the sky at night and say, "Is the truth in the sky?" Not only asking questions, Chambers began reading books about astronomy. Hopefully, he could find out how big the universe is. From there, he was shaking. What he read indicated that there was a great and amazing creation that had happened before he was born as a human. One day, he decided to visit the church. He thought the church had the answers to his questions. Unfortunately, his intention was hampered because the head of the church was busy and asked him to make an appointment for another day. The day after, he was able to meet the pastor. The first thing he noticed was that the pastor was so busy with pens, papers, and the phone ringing nonstop. Since then, Yusuf Chambers studied Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, and other religions. However, none of these religions satisfied him. At one point, he began to study science, studying astronomy. Again, science could not provide an answer. Science is unable to answer the question of where humans go after death and why humans need to live in the world. One time, Chambers was in Malaysia to meet his Muslim girlfriend. At that time, it was the holy month of Ramadan. Tim never knew that the traditions carried out by Malaysian Muslims were part of the holy month ritual. He was surprised when his girlfriend asked him not to visit her during Ramadan. Tim Chambers, Islam Answers Everything. Why am I here on earth? These two big questions have left Tim Chambers, a man born in Woking, Surrey, England, troubled. He went on a spiritual quest to find the answers. I have believed in Buddhism, Hinduism, socialism, and Christianity for the second time, said the long-haired man as quoted by onislam.net. However, the team failed to find God. He also studied Tai Chi and various martial arts, meditation, and vegetarianism. He hoped that he could find answers to the spiritual questions that were entrenched in his heart. No one could give me answers, he said, until one day he got acquainted with Islam, and the two important answers that he had been looking for were finally found in Islam. Since then, he became a Muslim. In fact, now he is a preacher. His name changed to Yusuf Chambers. He always appears at various international Muslim events and regularly fills programs for several Islamic media, such as Peace TV and Islam Channel. His preaching also reaches Mexico, India, and Kuwait. Then how did Yusuf find Islam? Before he became famous as a preacher, not many people knew his life's trail. He admitted that he came from a dark past. Yusuf did not forget how his days were before he converted to Islam 15 years ago. It was horrible, he said, recalling his past life spent with his friends, drinking and doing other negative things. I don't need to explain what we did almost always in those days, he said. When he turned 20, his life began to change. He began to pursue something spiritual. At that time, I began to question many things in this life, including the existence of God. He often spent his time without talking to anyone, observing his surroundings. He then concluded that everything was not important. Tim also often looked out the window for a long time and tried to find the truth from the sky. At one point, I was amazed by everything I saw from the window, he said. The beauty of the moon and stars had left him in awe. How great the universe was side by side with the nearest star 4 light years away. I was so scared because I never knew why all these amazing things were around me, she said. The team then tried to find it through science and studying astronomy. All of that did not answer his questions and instead led him to confusion. His search actually concluded that science only attached labels to everything that seemed real and did not provide any explanation behind it. According to him, science is unable to answer the basic questions. Why are we in this world? Where will we go after we die? Those are the basic questions we have to ask ourselves and others around us.